How many of you have used Whereby, or Appearin, as it was used to call? Some more hands there? Yeah, great. This is not me. That's me. Should I just skip ahead really fast? Don't look. Okay, here we go. Oops. Okay, so Didrik, you had a great introduction by talking about how you work remotely, because I am going to talk about how remote work and flexible work can reshape the labor market. And as a backdrop, what I work with is this product. Whereby is a video meeting service that is a global service. It's used in literally every country in the world every month. And last year we had 10 million unique users hosting 58 million meetings on the platform. So we have been global from day one, and we actually started out as a student project inside Telenor. But we really saw the potential that this could become a really big service. Together with Svein, who's there, who's the other founder, we set up a small team, and we started growing the service to becoming something that users really love and use for all kinds of things we never imagined. Everything from talking to their doctor, to doing marriage counseling for a priest, to tutoring. We have a big customer who's doing code tutoring to kids in India, and I think they run like 100,000 meetings every month on our platform. And also, our own team has been on a journey from everyone being in one office here in Oslo to now being spread across 12 different locations and different countries and time zones. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that experience and also how we see that trend really shaping the global labor market. And what has happened in 2019 is that this has really become a mainstream trend. It's not just something that tech companies do anymore. But work no longer happens just in the office. And more companies are taking on remote workers. So with recent surveys, it's shown that more than half of US companies now have remote workers. And the people who work remotely, they love it. Like 96% would recommend it to a friend. And more importantly, the talent that companies are trying to hire, they say that a lot of them would change jobs for the ability to work remotely at least part of the time. So this is putting a lot of pressure on companies to change their policies and the tools and the freedom that they offer employees. And what is flexible working? So the way we define it, it is that employees can choose where they want to work from, and they can also choose when they want to work, maybe with some limitations, that you have some core hours. And that requires that you have a different management style than the old school, where the boss sits on the desk across and sees everything you do. So it needs to be more trust-based. You need to manage people through goals and coaching rather than direct orders. And this is something that our Scandinavian leadership style is very well suited to. Also, the communication doesn't happen in an office anymore. You can't just poke the person next to you on the shoulder to discuss something. Most of the communication happens in a chat or on video calls. And the goal is that employees can manage their own workday, which has a number of benefits. First of all, that people become less stressed. They have more flexibility in their lives to balance work and personal life. And they can adapt their workday to how they work the best. And especially in knowledge jobs, where you have to be creative or you have to solve really hard problems, there's not a button that you can press on to become productive. If it's a really hard problem, maybe you need to let it mature for several days. You need to take a walk in the woods, take a shower, and suddenly you have the solution. So this allows you to kind of break out of the boundaries of the office and come up with much more inspiring and creative thoughts. And I mentioned that more and more companies are adopting this, and some of the biggest companies in the tech sector is now either fully remote, which is on this side, and that means they actually don't have offices or a big headquarter office. All their employees are working remotely, either from home, from a co-working space, or in hubs. And you also have big companies who have offices, but they take on remote workers for some of the teams or lots of the roles that they hire for. So I think we're just going to see more and more of this as companies are now discovering how it is possible to work efficiently. And what is the impact of this for us as a society? So here's an example. Børge up there is one of my colleagues. He recently moved his whole family from Oslo to a small town called Førde on the west coast of Norway, where he comes from and his parents live. And first of all, they could sell their apartment here in Oslo, and they are now looking at building a house up there for the same amount of money. They can be close to the grandparents, and they have beautiful nature around them, and a much better family economy. So he was able to do that and take his job with him because our whole team is working remotely. And the other example is another company that is also headquartered in Førde with 17 employees. It's called Tibber, one of the hottest Norwegian startups right now that investors are queuing up for. But they are basically disrupting the power sector. And the founder is from Førde. He wanted to build his company starting locally, but he also has employees all over the world. And they have offices in Berlin and in different places. So what that does is bringing tax revenues back to local communities to allow them to have a much more sustainable economy and have a service offering to employees. I think we'll save questions. And the opportunity for this in terms of the labor market is having a much more inclusive and diverse labor market. First of all, as a recent mother, I really now see the value of having a flexible workday where I can adapt my day to what's happening with my daughter. If she's sick, maybe me and my boyfriend have to take turns on taking our meetings on video from home. And I think that can make it much easier for a lot of women to participate in the labor market. Also, being able to hire people from different parts of the world makes it much easier to build a diverse team. And I think what you guys are doing, Didrik, is really showing the potential of that. Also for people with disabilities that maybe have problems with traveling into an office and need a lot of facilitation in a normal job, they now have a sudden opening in the job market where they can work from home for a lot more roles. And that jobs are not only available to those who live in the same area as where the job is. And also to comment on the recent situation with the coronavirus, I think, and it's not just the coronavirus, it's also other kind of force majeure situations that are out of your control as a company, but it can be trains not running or snow days where infrastructure shuts down and you basically are not able to get to work. And I think the ability to function as an organization in those kind of scenarios is going to be a lot easier if you are rigged for flexible working. So to sum up, at least this is my vision for what the future of work looks like. Today we have a situation where the big cities are kind of the center of innovation, and they have the headquarters for most of the knowledge jobs. Also, the housing prices are sky high, making it only available to very few people to actually live in the cities. And you have a problem with a lot of pollution and traffic problems. Whereas in the small communities outside, it's very vulnerable to big cornerstone companies in old industry maybe, that are maybe going out of business. Or most jobs are in the primary industry. And for young people who have an education, that's not very attractive. So therefore you have a declining population, also lowering the tax base. And then it doesn't help that you have affordable housing. So I think in the future, there is an opportunity for those small communities to build up, bringing home young people, and having them as remote workers. As a tax base for families, it's a chance to live together and increasing the population in those small communities, and also to bring tech into transforming the primary industries that are in the countryside. And also the cities, I think they're going to be much more sustainable. We see that in Oslo. There's a lot of changes going on. Pedestrians are prioritized, and you get a price on traffic. So there's always going to be cities, but I think we can level the playing field somewhat. Yes. And I think I look forward to more discussion during the panel debate. So thank you.